see all the data. What can you tell us about the upcoming tax season and what we're going to see in terms of our returns?
Yeah, so Maria, let's go back. The one big beautiful bill was passed on July 4th, but for working Americans, it was retroactive to the beginning of the year. Most taxpayers did not change their withholding, so as a result, we're going to see very substantial 100 to 150 billion of refunds in the first quarter go directly to Americans' pockets. So the sooner they file, the sooner they'll get them. Our estimate is it could be 1,000, 2,000 per household, depending on the number of workers.
Wow, that is a big...
That our response needed to be deep and comprehensive.
The deep and comprehensive response comes from the form of House Bill 1312, signed into law today. It tightens the options for Homeland Security agents in 4 areas. First, in and around Illinois courthouses. Blocking civil arrest easily allows anyone falsely arrested around a court a clearer path to $10,000 in damages. Number 2, hospitals. The state demanding they refresh policies, requiring new ones for when law enforcement visit and tighten conditions for releasing health information. Third is universities. The law requires new rules for when law enforcement can be on campus while restricting lots of decisions based on immigration status for students and staff. Finally, daycares. New action plans are required for when law enforcement comes knocking here, more abundant know your rights language, and tighter conditions for when family documentation can be shared with law enforcement.
All of these settings will now be required to complete organizational planning to uphold the rights of those they serve in the event of enforcement activity.
Again, Illinois will be different, deciding to join Maine and the District of Columbia in their stance on no tax on tips. Instead, Illinois will keep state taxes on that tipped income, even when those tips are exempt at the federal level, citing that this would be a significant loss of revenue. In fact, the Governor's Office of Management and Budget projected a $267 million deficit in fiscal year 2026. Here now is the reaction from a local business owner.
The feedback that we're getting for the decision to continue to tax these tips, as well as I guess I could add my personal, as a business owner, where a lot of it was kind of not surprised. The state of Illinois have an opportunity to give a tax break and instead chooses to add more tax.
I'm proud of that because I believe in universal health care. Others may say it, I did it. First state in the country, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. I promised that. I promoted it. I ran 3 times on it. I did it when I was mayor. People know who I am. We failed on the border. We need to own up to that. Largest border crossing in the Western Hemisphere in my state. Spent $1 billion+ to do migrant centers, try to put a lid on things. And it was quite critical, but I tried to do it in a respectful way of the Biden administration. We failed on the border. We have to own that. But we've also failed as a consequence because of that to lead the comprehensive immigration question. We've got to get the border right, then we can get to that. But I say that to make the point. You don't need sanctuary policy in this country if we have a federal government doing its job. In the absence of that, we'll deal with the cards that are dealt. And one of the cards that are dealt is people are going to end up in the emergency room, and you're going to pay for that one way or another. I want to keep people out of the emergency room. I want to keep people healthier. I want to keep people safer. And that's why we've advanced these values.
Welcome back to BioInfo. Here's a question every working American should be asking right now. Why is it getting harder to survive in this country, even when you're doing everything right? You work overtime, you rely on tips, you try to save, you try to build something. Yet every year, it feels like there's less left in your pocket. And the reason isn't complicated. It's because the people running blue states have decided that you come second. Democrats have officially crossed a line that can't be ignored anymore. They're blocking tax relief for working Americans while openly funneling billions of dollars to illegal immigrants. Sanctuary states across the country are now refusing to participate in Donald Trump's no tax on tips policy, not because it doesn't work, but because they need your money to fund an ever-expanding welfare system for people who aren't even supposed to be here. And before anyone says that's conspiracy or right-wing speculation, let's be clear. They admit it out loud. This is where California Governor Gavin Newsom comes in. Newsom recently went on record bragging about giving universal health care to illegal immigrants, regardless of their ability to pay or their immigration status. Not quietly, not reluctantly, proudly. He didn't just defend it. He campaigned on it, ran on it, and implemented it. And in doing so, he shattered one of the biggest lies Democrats have been pushing for years, that illegal immigrants don't receive taxpayer-funded benefits. Here's the hook everyone needs to understand. Democrats don't see borders the way you do. To them, citizenship isn't a requirement, it's a suggestion. In their worldview, simply being physically present in the United States entitles you to the same benefits as someone who's worked, paid taxes, and followed the law their entire life. Newsom even admits California failed on the border. He acknowledges massive crossings, billions spent on migrant centers, and complete federal dysfunction. Yet after admitting failure, instead of changing course, the solution is always the same. Make the taxpayer pay for it. His argument boils down to this: people are here, therefore we owe them everything. And that mindset is exactly why blue states are rejecting the no tax on tips policy. Let's pause here because this is critical. When Democrats say a state will lose revenue, what they're really saying is you don't deserve to keep your own money. That money doesn't belong to you in their eyes. It belongs to the government, and the government decides how much, if any, you're allowed to keep. Illinois is the perfect example. Illinois has some of the highest property taxes and income taxes in the country. People are already fleeing the state in massive numbers. Businesses are closing. Families are stretched thin. And when given the opportunity to let tipped workers keep more of what they earn, Illinois said no. Why? Because the state claims it would lose roughly $267 million. But here's the truth they'll never say on camera: that $267 million isn't theirs. It belongs to waiters, bartenders, delivery drivers, hotel staff, and service workers who survive on tips. Yet the state treats worker relief as a budget problem, while illegal immigrant spending is treated as a moral obligation. And while Illinois residents are told to tighten their belts, Governor J.B. Pritzker is busy signing laws that do one thing very clearly: protect illegal immigrants from federal enforcement. New legislation in Illinois restricts ICE activity around courthouses, hospitals, universities, and even daycares. In reality, it's performative politics designed to send a message. This state prioritizes illegal immigrants over law-abiding citizens, and that message has consequences. In cities like Chicago, these policies have already led to dangerous situations where criminal illegal immigrants flee into schools, churches, and childcare centers to avoid arrest. Why would they do that? Because Democrats told them those places are safe havens. That's not compassion. That's recklessness. It puts children, families, and innocent people directly in harm's way. Now contrast that with what's happening at the federal level. While Democrats are blocking tax relief, Donald Trump's tax policies are doing the opposite. Because recent tax changes are retroactive, millions of Americans are expected to receive larger refunds this year, potentially $1,000 to $2,000 per household. That's real money. That's groceries. That's rent. That's breathing room. And yet, the left is furious. They're furious about tariffs, furious about tax cuts, furious about Americans keeping more of what they earn. But here's the irony no one in legacy media wants to address. The tariffs aren't hurting consumers the way Democrats claimed they would. Corporations are absorbing the costs to stay competitive. Gas prices remain low in most states. Rent and home prices are cooling, and wages are finally starting to stretch further. Even more telling, as enforcement increases, millions of illegal immigrants are already self-deporting. And suddenly, housing supply improves. Funny how that works. But Democrats don't want to talk about cause and effect. They don't want to talk about spending cuts. They don't want to talk about prioritizing citizens. Instead, they moralize taxation. Back in Illinois, some policy experts are now arguing that not taxing tips is actually unfair. Their logic? If one group of workers gets relief, someone else might have to pay more. That argument completely collapses under scrutiny. There is no law of economics that says government spending must always increase. The burden wouldn't shift if spending were reduced. It would disappear. But cutting spending, especially spending on illegal immigrants, is unthinkable to Democrats. So instead, they guilt-trip workers into believing relief for them somehow hurts society. This reveals the core philosophy at play. Democrats believe your money belongs to the state. You're allowed to keep some of it, but only if they approve. And if you question that logic, they'll shame you. They'll accuse you of being selfish. They'll tell you you're obligated to pay your fair share for your undocumented neighbors. But while politicians lecture you about fairness, something else is happening behind the scenes. and it's being exposed more and more every day. In Washington, D.C., the police chief recently resigned after investigators uncovered manipulation of crime statistics. Commanders were pressured to downgrade charges, underreport serious crimes, and create the illusion that the city was safer than it actually was. Let that sink in. Because Chicago, New York, and D.C. all claim historic lows in crime, yet residents consistently list crime as their number one concern. Somebody is lying. And it's not the people living with the consequences. This matters because Democrats constantly point to crime statistics to defend their policies, including sanctuary laws. They claim illegal immigrants commit less crime, yet immigration status isn't even tracked in most crime data. And despite that, illegal immigrants make up roughly 20% of federal prison inmates. That's not a talking point. That's reality. So when Democrats tell you crime is down, taxes must stay high, tips must be taxed, and borders don't matter, remember what you're actually seeing. You're watching a political class protect its power, its voter base, and its ideology at your expense. This isn't about compassion versus cruelty. It's about priorities. Donald Trump is prioritizing American workers. Democrats are prioritizing illegal immigrants, and every policy choice makes that clearer by the day. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think working Americans should keep more of their own money? Or do you think states should continue squeezing citizens to fund benefits for people who broke the law to get here? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to BioInfo, and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. I'll see you in the next one.